afternoon, everyone. I am Sarah, the head of search here at Venn, and today we're going to do another recruitment collective. I'm sure some of you have seen me on a few of these before, but if you haven't, like I said, I'm the head of search here at Venn. We work quite closely with all of our clients for their go lives, SEO strategies, content campaigns, anything you think of. I'm somewhere hiding in a corner, checking people are doing their work. Today, we're going to be talking a lot about understanding our results. Most of it will focus on organic traffic, as I think that's a good benchmark for taking out any campaigns, anything that we've been doing, anything that could have changed our traffic in any shape or form, but we will touch on other channels as well. If you do find you've got questions about whether it be direct or any other traffic, please feel free to get in touch with us. We're always keen to get more conversations going and to help you guys as much as we can. But yeah, let's get into it, jump into some information that you guys will hopefully find useful. And if you do have any questions, please let us know. We do have a little bit of like a Q&A session at the end. So if you do have questions, just drop us a note and we can go through questions then. Or get in touch afterwards. I know some people just prefer to contact us because it's easier. But yeah, let's crack on with it. So starting with what you can expect from today, I really want to drill down into how the recruitment industry is just as the same as any other industry. There's seasonality, there's sector cycles. We are so dependent on world events and news. And I think quite a lot of people often forget that we just want to get crack on with our campaigns, with our strategies. And sometimes we're a bit concerned, why is something not working? What's happening? Why has there been a dip or an increase? And I don't understand where it's come from. But a lot of times it could be as simple as, a major event that's happened in the world, Google letting their YouTube team go and firing 2,000 people. It could be as simple as there's been just a change in the industry, graduate season, whatever it might be. There's quite a few things that could impact what happens with our results. And I think it's good for us to have an understanding of where can I look at my results to see those dips and those peaks and know what's happening, but also knowing at what channels to look for when it comes to different items. Is it spam traffic? Is it my email campaign? A lot of these things might be very clear to you guys, and quite a few of you guys, I don't want to patronize anybody. You might already know the answer to some of these things, but there might be things that you haven't thought of. Is there a free tool that actually you've not been using to just spot a simple thing or understand something little that's going on? So diving into that straight away, I think the first thing that I want to cover is seasonality. It's so important to understand what is going on in our world. And obviously, every different sector will have its own little differentiation things, and there might be something that happens in finance or in, if you're recruiting teachers or you're recruiting someone that works in retail. It all has its own little areas, but there are some things that we are all impacted by. And that is just an annual thing, it's an annual affair. Some obvious things that we all know of, January rush, everybody comes back from Christmas. They've thought about their life. They've thought about what they've done with themselves. And there's a big influx of candidates. But we also see quite a lot of businesses wanting to hire. They're realizing, okay, we stopped by the end of the year. Christmas, everybody shuts down. You tend to see that things slow down at the start of December and then they really go dead middle of December. But then everybody comes back in January ready to push on those hires that they were thinking about, push on the projects that they were, planning on. People are rethinking their life and saying, actually, I want to change in my career. I want to change in what I'm doing. And that tends to happen always, that December, January period where we see that big fall and then the massive increase. But then on top of that, you've got more things, apprenticeship week is in February. How many of us do actually plan campaigns to reach out and get those apprenticeships? Are there people that we could have been reaching out to that we could have gotten sooner, some candidates that we could have gotten in, or could we have spoken to some businesses that potentially would be open to some sort of apprenticeship scheme that we could have helped them with? So when do we actually start planning those campaigns? If you've got something happening in February, really we should have been talking about it in December, at least 2 months prior, to start preparing all of our things, how they will impact it. You've got May through September looking at graduates, people leaving university, leaving school, wanting to start a career, wanting to change something. And there's another big influx of candidates. But at the same time, in that time period, you'll find that actually July, August, no one's hiring. So whilst we have all of these candidates wanting to find a job and be eager, a lot of us might find most of my clients are on holiday. They're away, they're with their children. They're not actually there to make decisions, and the decision makers are gone. So how can we prepare better to make sure that our campaigns and whatever we're working on are prepared for all of these candidates coming in, clients slowing down, and then vice versa? Clients pick things back up around September time to try to get back into it. September, October is really hot for clients because they're trying to get back into things before the Christmas shutdown. But a lot of candidates at that period are a bit maybe let down, a bit, not looking at things properly. It's the end of the year. Oh, I'll wait till Christmas. I'll think it over, over the holidays. And it's kind of like that switch happens where we've got all of these clients being, okay, we've got this 2-month period where we can really push things, but candidates might actually have been slowing down in that period. So could we have prepared things for our clients in the summertime so that when they're ready, we've got this massive pool and that we can better prepare campaigns to attract people at the right time? And that's kind of what we're saying when we say, look at the annual things, the things that happen every single year. How can we better prepare for it? And how would they impact our results? If we all know that there's always a drop in December, is it fair to be worried about your reports in January time and you go to your boss and say, oh my God, like everything's just down. It's been such a horrible Q4, but when is Q4 good, really? It's always a slower month, or a slower quarter. There's always so much going on other times of the year, and so many campaigns that we shouldn't really be surprised that there was a slower time. If anything, let's use Q4 to prepare some campaigns to really hit the ground running in the following year. And on the back of that, how does that work in cycles? So whatever sector that you might be recruiting, and then some of you guys will be recruiting in so many different sectors. I mean, some of you have like 25 different sectors that you might be recruiting in, or every single sector that you think of, and some of you might be more specialist. It might just be IT, or it might just be engineering, or it's only renewables, or it's only energy storage. There might be so many different things that you guys look after. So how do you also prepare for that? Because when you look at your data, you might find that the overall things are working fine and cohesively, and they might have the same cycles. But what if there is a specific industry that will have a dip at a certain point in the year, and where you would expect certain results from everybody, there's that one sector that's going to be slightly lower than everybody else, which will bring the overall stats down, which means that actually you look at your, GA4, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, like, what's happening? Suddenly everything's down. Nothing should be down. The trends are X, Y, Z. But actually, something could have happened in an industry. So, we've kind of highlighted a few on here for you guys, but there's some very obvious things, summer holidays for education. Suddenly everybody, if you're going to get a new job in education, you're not going to do it in the middle of the school year. You are going to do it in the summer holidays. So there might be your peak sudden increase. October and April deadline for taxes, suddenly everybody in finance is either looking to hire or looking for contracting. There's always a massive, massive time for contracting is around March, April time. So how do we prepare for those peaks and for those dips to understand that, okay, it's not that I'm doing something wrong, maybe my data is correct, but what's it trying to tell me? Is it trying to tell me that I've forgotten to engage a certain industry? The biggest thing we're seeing is tech companies. There's so many changes going on recently. They use the new year as we've put on here, they use that new year to let's restructure everything, let's push out a new campaign. But that could go one of two ways. Some businesses, in a tech industry, they're realizing, okay, we're doing this new thing this year. We need to hire all of these people. And that tends to be the case with, engineering, anything of that sort. But then you've got other flip side of it, where you've got companies like YouTube who've decided to let a massive chunk of their business go in January, February of this year, because they've actually done a restructure where they've realized we don't need this many people. We need to change something. And suddenly there was a huge, huge redundancy happening. So it could go either of the ways, but that's why we need to understand what are the cycles within specific sectors, not just overall in recruitment. And then how can we, again, get ahead of it? How can we promote things ahead of time? And then understanding how it all works with everything else, because again, You can't really predict mass redundancies in theory, but then when you do look at world news, there are things that we could have maybe in a way almost predicted. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't necessarily understand everything that's going on, but it's good to understand, if there are recessions, if there are major grants. There's so many grants going on at the minute for life sciences. The UK alone has a £2 billion project this year for sciences, and it isn't known yet which sciences it will go to, but that is something to keep an eye on, because it will either create quite a lot of jobs or it will put other people out of work. Because if it's all put into AI, what if it's people that focus on AI things and it puts others out of work? So it's understanding those world news and how it could impact the industry, and foreseeing, will people be let go? Obviously with Chat GPT and Bard or Gemini now, there's so many different tools being created every year that impact the job industry and recruitment and every single business and every single person's career path. AI made a massive change, and there was a huge influx of people going, well, I'm going to fire my content team because I'll just use AI. But now they're saying actually their results on the back of AI are not that much better, and they're finding they're having to hire again because they need a content person to manage the AI and still have that element of a person checking content and making sure it's unique and making sure it's correct, and is my tone of voice right? And I think that's the kind of understanding of your worldview and not just recruitment that's needed, so much so to make sure that for all of those future businesses, reskilling, if there's major redundancies in oil and gas, can these people be moved to renewables, which is such a hot topic at the minute? How can we stay ahead of the curve and make sure that we understand what our results are doing on the back of that? And a few ways that you can do that is simply by using Google tools. There isn't really any mystery around what you can do. It's Google data is there for us to use. And I think a lot of people forget that when it comes to strategies or what we tend to use for how we come up with different ideas, we don't go on the back of things that we've made up. Especially here at Venn, we do have so much knowledge and we work across so many recruitment businesses. But the most important thing for us is to always go back to data. What are people searching? What are people looking for? What are people asking? And the first thing that you can look at is Google Trends. I'm sure most of you have heard of Google Trends or have used it in some form or another. It is a simple, free tool that people forget to use as an actual way of predicting things. Google Trends, all it tells you is the volume of people that were searching for a certain topic. So say, me being American, I obviously know about Super Bowl, exciting topic for people that, where I grew up, not so much maybe in Europe, but I know that around Super Bowl time, when it comes to January, February, everybody's suddenly Googling Super Bowl. They want to know what it's, what is that topic? What is it about? What's happening? Who's going to be playing? Who's in the finals? Who's going to be doing the halftime show? If that's all you watch it for, which a lot of us do because it's, I'm not a sports person. So what do? You see that spike. You see that, throughout the year, no one really talks about, Super Bowl. You'll see the interest is quite low. Then suddenly January, February, sometimes all the way into March, if it's controversial, you'll see this big peak. And I know these slides might be a little bit small, so don't worry, we will send these to you guys afterwards so you'll be able to see a little bit better. But even comparing this, I've compared renewable energy recruitment with life science recruitment. And it's so evident that whilst, renewable energy is fairly consistent, it's kind of got its peaks and troughs, there isn't really a pattern there. You can see that there is a pattern for life sciences. And when you look at some of the news and you compare it against what's been said in the news, the pattern actually follows different peaks and troughs and grants that were given throughout the year. So last year, because I looked at, the last 12 months, the big pieces, where you see those big interest and there's a lot more red and it's sky high, is because around those times there were grants given out, IRA went out, and people were just asking a lot of questions and Googling things about life science recruitment because of that. So understanding that there was some interest, that there was a trend to it, is quite important in understanding how we can utilize that information. And the easiest way to do it is set up alerts. There is a very easy way. All you have to do is just click on alerts and say, I want to see trending searches in, for our example here, we chose United Kingdom, and we want to see all the trending searches in finance. or life sciences. Pick a sector. We all work in different sectors, and we're somehow, just because it doesn't say finance recruitment, you still need to know what's going on in finance. It will impact recruitment. It will impact jobs. It will impact businesses. So having that sort of trends coming to your inbox, and say once a week, you just get an email from Google to say, over the last 7 days, these have been the trending topics within finance or within life sciences. And how can you use that information? Because if you know for a fact there just aren't many searches in something, it will explain quite a lot of things. The biggest thing that I see is people are so excited. I rank in position 1 for life science recruitment. I am the top recruiter in life sciences. When somebody searches life science recruitment, I am the first thing that pops up. I have a great email strategy. I have a great social media strategy and social media presence. Like, I have all my ducks in a row, but I logged into analytics and my organic traffic is down, and I don't understand why. And half the time, I'll speak to clients and I'll say, well, have you checked if people are actually searching for jobs in life sciences? Like, great, you might have all the campaigns, you might rank number 1, but if people aren't searching for it, it doesn't really matter. And we'll validate it. We'll say, actually, you're right. The trend is down. There's a lot less people searching for it. So, obviously keep it going. Make sure that you stay in that position 1, so that when the trends pick up, you are the first person they will see, and you're kind of ready for when it all picks up again. But don't be down on yourself to say, I've done all this work and no one's coming. My organic traffic is down, because sometimes it is just out of your hands. It is just the world. And I think understanding that kind of helps you validate, okay, well, I'm doing everything I can. I'm prepared for when it goes up, but then you can track that as well. So if you know that suddenly everything's going up, the trend is going the positive way, can you track that? Can you log into your analytics and say, actually, you're right. Okay, my organic traffic is starting to go up. That's great. That means things are picking up. I'm following the trends. I'm following all of that. I'm doing everything right. I'm on the right track. So how can I now replicate that for any other sector that I work in? And I think that's just so crucial in understanding what we do. There's so many patterns and different things that go on in analytics. And I think the biggest thing that you can look at is always check your organic traffic. I think if you want to know if it's, is it a seasonal dip? Is it my search console? Was there an algorithm update and actually my website is no longer compliant with what Google's now looking for? Look for those things. And if you see that, or your organic traffic is taking a dip, but everything else is going up, then okay, it must be a Google thing. It must be a trends thing. If everything else is fine and organic traffic is following that same line, then you're on the right track. But if you see that organic traffic dip, that should be a signal to you. Okay, was it an algorithm update? Was it trends? Have I deleted something and I'm not ranking for things anymore? And we'll go into that a little bit more later on today. But look at the different things that could signal to you, what's actually happening. And what I've got here on this slide is in the first graph that we see, everything's kind of following the same line. It's got the same pattern. It drops down in the same period. That was the Christmas break. Everything went down. Everything was fine. And then there's that dip. Great. We expected it. That was the 2-3 week Christmas break. I'm not shocked. That's exactly what I thought I would see in my graphs. But then you see I've got 2 other graphs beneath it that show everything kind of has some sort of pattern, but that one graph just suddenly spikes. And the reason why it spikes is because it's referral traffic. And this referral traffic came specifically from some news website. And that, my first question would be, okay, did I put something out and have I sent out some sort of memo? Is it a PR thing? Have I been doing some work? Is it a spam website? Is it an actual good news website, or is it a spammy one? In which case I've got spam traffic. I need to, make sure I block this, don't see it. It's not impacting my results and I'm not getting skewed data. Or has somebody linked to me? Has somebody seen something I've put out there and they've decided to link to me? And the easiest way to look at that is always check your source and your medium in GA4 and have a look at, okay, is it referral? Is it direct traffic? Where is that stuff coming from? And then once you see that, have a think about, okay, well, what's the host name? So if you actually search on the different things you can search, just type in host name and it will give you the domain. Is it a domain I recognize? Are these people I've worked with? Have I actually made sure that this happens and I have this peak and this is on the back of my campaign, or is it spam? And vice versa. If you suddenly see a drop, see where the drop is. If that drop is in organic traffic, like I said, we'll go into it more in a minute, there will be an explanation. It'll be the algorithm, it'll be the keywords, it will be the tech SEO. There will be some logical explanation. Whereas if you see a drop in everything else, what is it? If it's direct traffic or referral traffic, have you been working with Pager and has Pager gone down? Have you been working with some sort of third-party app? Is LinkedIn or Indeed no longer scraping your website? Have you stopped doing some sort of campaign? Have your emails or your paid social gone down? What is the reason why it's gone down? And if there isn't any logical reason to it, what's happened? What can you learn from it? I think the biggest thing I want you guys to take away from today is that if you see a drop or something that concerns you, it is never an issue. That is always an opportunity. It's an opportunity for you guys to learn from it, to take some takeaways from it, and to turn it into a positive. Okay, something's dropped. I need to find out why. Once I find out why, I, one, make sure it never happens again. And B, how can I actually turn this around on the back of something else that's gone very, very well? And I think that's how we want to look at it is, where has my peak or my dip come from? Why has it happened? And what can I take away from it to improve my next strategy? Search Console. I feel like quite a lot of us are afraid of Search Console, and I don't think we should be. It's such an untapped source of information. Again, it's another free source. Not everybody has the budget to have Ahrefs or SEMrush or Moz or whatever other tools are out there. But actually, Google's your free source of information. It's the best way to get some sort of insights. And mind you, Search Console, most of it is organic, so it doesn't necessarily give you a lot of information outside of it, but it gives you a good overall picture of what's actually happening organically. Where do I stand with things? And I think the first thing that people worry about is the clicks, impressions, and click-through. So the one thing I want to dispel instantly, it has nothing to do with your actual website, as in someone's come to your website and they haven't clicked around or they haven't seen something. It's everything to do with how you rank. So your actual total click is on the link that they see in search results. So the higher you rank for specific keywords and specific terms, the higher your total click-through will be. Now, if your impressions, which is have they actually seen the URL to your website, so have they seen your meta title, your meta description, whatever it might be, if your impressions are very high, so they've definitely seen it, but the clicks are very low, which means the click-through rate is very low, that means there's something wrong with your meta title or meta description. It could be that sometimes it's as simple as they just don't like the meta description. It's not very enticing. If it just has your, we are recruitment agency B and we're the best in the business and here's a number to contact us, that doesn't necessarily entice people. Meta descriptions are no longer usable for SEO. They're not a keyword ranking factor. There's no point keyword stuffing them. That's your 150 characters to really get somebody to pay attention and be like, oh, okay, I've seen this link. I'm going to actually click on it. I want to see what this page is about. What is on this page? Why should I click on it? I think that's why it's so important to just test things. If you see that your impressions have been going through the roof and loads of people are clicking on it, and you can see that in this graph here on the top graph, that there was a period of time that actually all of the, for this specific client, their click-through rate and their total clicks have gone up and impressions have stayed down low, which is good. It means that actually, okay, impressions have been fairly stable, but actually the click-through rate has gone up massively, which means people want to click it. People are seeing you guys rank, and my rankings are getting better because my impressions are getting higher, so I am more visible, but people are actually clicking on it. That's great. But there was one period in time where actually the impressions were quite high, and the click-through rate wasn't, it didn't get better. It didn't go up with the impressions. It just kind of stayed at the same level. So that's where you investigate, okay, well, what's happened there? What's happened in that time period? Have I accidentally deleted some pages? Have I accidentally changed a meta title or a meta description in a way that it's no longer enticing? Use that to A/B test. You might find that meta descriptions work for a period of time, but they're not forever. And I think that's something that we always forget. Just because it worked for you for a few months or even a couple of years, it doesn't mean it will always work, because people change. Our behavior online changes constantly. And it could be that someone that was fine and saw your meta description, liked it a year ago, but actually so much has happened in the last year that when they see it now, it just doesn't resonate with them anymore. Or someone's written a better one in the meantime, and they might rank right below you, but theirs is better, so they're going to click on theirs. And that's what you want to test. Do I need to just tweak some wording to make myself more enticing? Not salesy, but enticing, exciting. I want to click. I want to know what they know, because they clearly know their shit. You kind of want to go with that. And similarly with clicking on your actual pages, when you scroll down to look at pages in Search Console, organize your pages by impressions. Always start with impressions. Don't look at clicks. Don't look at click-through rate. Organize it by impressions. The pages that have loads of impressions, but their click-through rate is very low, something's not working. What's wrong with the meta description? What do I need to tweak? And then look at your pages that have really good clicks and really good ratio of click-through rate on those high impression pages. What can you learn? Why are those pages performing better? What are their meta descriptions saying that maybe the other non-performing pages are not saying? How can you learn, and how can you make sure that all of your pages are of the same standard? And then moving on to keywords. Again, you can look at keywords or search queries, as Google calls them, within Search Console. And I think queries are a good thing to look at. They give you some sort of insights as well. But it's not always the same as a keyword. So a query is the literal thing that was typed. So that is exactly what they've typed in. Whereas a keyword is, it could be just that word. It could be part of a bigger sentence. It could be short tail, long tail, it could be anything. So it's always good to understand your keywords before you understand queries. But if you haven't got, the budget to look at paid tools, use queries from Search Console. Use that to give you some sort of insight into, okay, well, what are people searching and I'm just not getting or getting. And I think that's a good thing to understand. Where have my keywords increased or dropped? So the first thing that you want to look at is branded and non-branded keywords. If your branded keywords are very, very high, but your non-branded keywords, so the ones that don't have your brand name in it, are very low, something's not right in your strategy. You're not going to rank very well. You're not going to have really high organic traffic, because that's just going to be return users. And for all you know, it could just be people from your office searching your website. The amount of times I've seen people Google their own website instead of going to the actual website URL is mind-boggling. You work for a business for 10 years, but you're still going to Google them instead of actually going to the website. So make sure that when you look at your keywords, as great as branded keywords are, it is a nice vanity metric, it isn't going to give you all the insights. You need to look at non-branded. Those are the new people, the people that you reach out to that have never heard of you, the people that are just looking for life science recruitment or life science recruiters or life science jobs, and they don't care who the business is. They just want someone who's good and who's going to rank high enough for them to click and have that enticing meta description. All of these keywords engage people at different stages of the funnel, and the most important and the biggest stage of the funnel is awareness, and that's where that non-branded keyword comes into play. And even in the engagement phase, it's still non-branded, because are they going to click? You've got the impression they've seen you, but are they actually going to click on your website? So understanding if your branded and non-branded split ratio of keywords, what it is, it will help you to understand what you're doing. If you have a very high ratio of branded keywords, the likelihood is that you're just too salesy on your website. So most of your, guides, blog posts, downloads, landing pages, they might just talk about you too much. It might be that everything ranks for your business name because you talk about your business all the time. But at the end of the day, they don't care about your business. They care how you're going to solve their headache, whether that's hiring them a person or finding them a person a job. The focus less on you and being salesy and more on hitting those high targeted important keywords. Keyword intent, that is the biggest thing that you can look at as well. So again, you can't probably see it too well, but I've compared life science and life science recruitment. Now, life science recruitment, It has a much lesser difficulty. It's not as difficult to rank for. You'll see it's 38. That's the one at the bottom. Yes, it has a lot less traffic, a lot less searches, but it's high intent. I am literally looking for someone who does life science recruitment. It's undeniable what they're trying to find. It's very clear. So use that. Go for those very, very specific keywords. If you just type in life science, it could be anything. It could be someone doing their homework on life science. It could be someone who had a conversation with a friend who mentioned life sciences, and you don't know what it is, so you're going to Google it. It could be someone looking for news. It's so generic, it's just not worth ranking for. It's great to have a lot of organic traffic, and it would be wonderful to rank for life science, but it's just going to be a lot of traffic that comes to your website for probably no reason. Half of them won't convert. Whereas if you were ranking for life science recruitment, you included recruitment or you included jobs in your actual headings and meta titles and your URL, you're targeting very specific people. And again, that either increases your traffic or decreases. So if you've got a very high ratio of organic traffic, there's loads of organic traffic, but you're not converting and your conversions are low, the first thing to check is your keywords. What are you ranking for? Is this organic traffic because of branded queries or non-branded queries? Are they coming there because you rank for some really generic things and they might be doing some research for some random reason and they come across you and find actually this isn't what I was looking for? Make sure you get that. Don't focus on, I just want loads of organic traffic. That's not why we're here. We are here to convert, to get business, to get candidates. So check if your organic traffic is very high, but the actual conversions are low. What is wrong? Is it the keywords? Are you ranking for the incorrect things? Or is it the landing pages? Are they just not finding what they need on the landing pages? And all of that tends to come from keywords. You tend to gather that data at that stage. And similarly, drops in keywords. A lot of us are scared of drops in keywords. And I know most people, when they see a drop, like I said before, the first thing we do is freak out. Oh my God, what have I done? What's wrong with my strategy? What do I need to change? Again, don't take it as a bad thing. Take it as a thing to take learnings from. So what I've kind of tried to highlight in these two graphs, and it looks like the squares on different areas, they are the same time periods, I promise. What I've tried to highlight is two different clients who've taken two different approaches. The one at the top where you see that everything was going well and then suddenly it drops drastically, that's a client who has been hit by Google updates last year and they've not changed anything. So you will see here at the bottom that there's little, it's got little G symbols, and those are just signs to tell you there was a Google algorithm update. And what's happened here is that client was doing quite well with their content, and then the algorithm update happened and their content no longer served purpose. It wasn't good. It didn't rank very well. It didn't adhere to the helpful content update. It didn't adhere to anything that people are trying to do to prevent AI content from ranking well. So as you'll see, their content started dropping, and it just keeps going down because they haven't changed anything in their strategy. Whereas the client at the bottom, they were doing very well. Things were going okay. You see that big hump, that big dip right before the pink box. And that's when they started doing some more of the strategy. And they're like, okay, well, let us change how we do our content. Let's start optimizing the content that we have. Let's start updating older content to adhere to these new rules that are coming in, because we do get warnings. We don't, not every update is always known about, but some big major updates like the helpful content update, we did know about it in advance. So the update happened, as you see, at the same time as the client above them, but their content didn't dip. It kept going up and up and up and up. And that's because they adhered to that and they were not hit by that update. Now you'll see that there in the end of that graph, they suddenly drop and plateau. And the reason why is because they stopped focusing on that specialism and decided, well, I'm going to move on to a different area of my website. The thing with Google is you always continuously need to update and keep things fresh. Just because you've reached position 1 and position 3 and you have loads of keywords in a specific area, it does not mean you'll stay there forever. You need to continuously feed that machine, feed it oil, to keep the cogs turning. And that's the biggest thing to look at in your keywords. Was it a Google update? Have I changed some pages? It could be that actually you're doing everything right, but you've deleted a page accidentally, or you've got loads of 404s, or actually your tech SEO scores are very low, and it doesn't matter how great your content is when the rest of the website is suffering. The page speed is too slow. There's loads and loads of factors that go into it. So analyze it. Have a think about, okay, well, if this, I can see my pages are fine. I've not changed anything with the content. The content should be okay. There wasn't an algorithm update. Okay, well, what's my page speed doing? Is that okay? Is the UX UI of my page okay? Have I got loads of, broken URLs or something like that? Think more like that kind of analysis of what's actually happening with your content. And I think the best way to kind of go about all of it is just putting it all together. Like I said, every gap is also an opportunity. Don't feel like just because something's gone down, it's a bad thing. I would say, if anything, it's a nice thing for you to have a look at. What can I do with it? How can I learn from this? How can I quickly pivot from it? I know that we always say that Google takes time, but Google's quite receptive. If you've seen a massive drop, but you really get to work on it and you really push out as much as you can to update things, it will take notice, and it doesn't take that long for things to get better. So the first thing that you want to do is kind of tier your data, put some sort of priority system. So if you're kind of wanting to understand your data, the analysis behind it, start with GA4, just simple things. Are things going up and down? Are they following the trends that I would expect? Is that what I would expect to happen? It's January. Have things gone up after December? If things have been still going down, and even though we're out of the holiday period and things are still going down in all of your channels, especially organic, clearly something's wrong. So we need to investigate. Use your drops and impressions. So that's your tier 2. Log into Search Console, look at impressions. If you have a decrease in impressions, that means your rankings are going down. You are not ranking for as many keywords. Something's happening with your rankings, with your understanding of where the website's positioned. And then finally, okay, my impressions might actually be going up. So everything's okay. Impressions are stable. Organic traffic is stable, but my click-through rate has gone down. Okay, do I need to test some new meta descriptions? Has somebody else started ranking and their meta description is better than mine? What can I do to check? And then finally, once you've done all of that, dive into world news, have a look at what's happening in the world, what's happening in the different sectors. What can you do with all of that? And just understanding all of that would help you to know how to prioritize your data and where to start. Because I think the biggest thing and the most frustrating thing is knowing, where do I actually start? Because there's so much data to look at. How do I make a decision? Where do I go from here? And that's why we're saying, always start with the simple Google things. Start there. We've put together a bit of a decision tree. It is a lot to take in, so please don't feel like you have to see everything on there. We will share this with you guys, but it's a bit of a decision tree to help you guys understand what's happening. So if you see a drop in traffic, you're kind of 3 things to look at: Search Console, health score, keywords. Where do I look first to understand what's happening? I see that in GA4, I've got there's this big dip. I'm not expecting it. I don't think it's trends. Where do I go? And we'll, in this decision tree, we try to walk you guys through the kind of the thought process behind, is it been a Google update? Has it been a change in my campaigns? Have I deleted some pages? Is it my health score? Is it the site speed? Is it the keywords? What keywords are they? Because if they're keywords beyond position 30, they shouldn't really impact your organic traffic. So what's actually happening? And in this tree, we'll talk you guys through all of that to help you understand where all of this comes from and what to do with it. And to kind of give you guys a bit of an overview of how we use this kind of decision tree and what we do with it, I wanted to share a bit of a case study. So it's something that we've done for one of our clients. It's a very niche industry that they rank in. It's a very specific type of industry. And before they came to Venn, they were ranking very well. They thought everything was going great, but suddenly their ranking started going down. The helpful content update came out. It just seemed like the things weren't working. There's just something wrong with the website. So we said, okay, it's clearly not working. Something's happening. Google doesn't like the content that you have. You've got so much content on it. Let's review. And what we've started with was all we did was we rewrote some of the existing content that talked about that specialism. We've rewritten their landing page, the main landing page for that industry, where we talked about what they do within the industry and how they work within it. We've created new content that talks about that. And we just started increasing, let's push out 2 pieces of content a month. Let's do some really good guides, really in-depth guides. And as we started doing that, and you'll see that in the pink box, over time, they started going up again. Okay, things were going up. We're on the right track. So Google's starting to see, actually, okay, they've turned things around. We are almost back to the same levels that they were at before things started dropping, before the helpful content update. So then from then on, we moved on to, okay, well, what can we do to maximize this? And we said, let's bring in a lead gen campaign. Let's do a download. Let's do an industry report about that industry. We spoke to their consultants, we interviewed their clients, we did a bit of a case study within it, we did loads of research, we created this really cool download. And we made sure that all of the guides that we've written linked to that download. So it wasn't just great for emails and for socials, but it also had some SEO value to it. We pushed it out, which is the orange box, and as things started suddenly going up, and we were like, great, you're going up. You're now actually surpassing what you were at before. So we're making a lot of headway. The content's ranking, it's all evergreen content. So it's not things you have to update every 6 months to make sure it's still in date. It's made a massive difference. And then from then we saw, okay, there was a plateau. Things were going great. Everything was going great. It plateaued. So we dived again deeper into the website. Content was doing well. The rankings were okay, but it just wasn't picking up more speed. It wasn't ranking for more things. It wasn't doing very much more. The lead gen kind of dried up because the client wasn't necessarily promoting it anymore, refreshing it. So we had a look, and we actually saw your tech SEO score has dropped. There's been some changes across the website that have made your tech SEO poorer, which means in the eyes of Google, okay, well, this website isn't as good. The experience, slower website, things aren't loading very well. Maybe it's not that much of a good website. I'm not going to rank it as well. So again, we worked on redoing some of the tech SEO. We relaunched parts of the websites to see what we can do with it. And there was a massive increase. As you can see, it just went flying. And we didn't write any more content for this area because the client wanted to kind of pause things, but the content still kept going. It still kept ranking. As you can see, before they came to us, they ranked for about 30 keywords. They were in position 3 or so, whereas now this client has like 170 keywords in just that specialism. They are in position 1, 2, and 3. They are ranking for all the things, but they're starting to plateau again. And that's where we're going back to, okay, you've really achieved something great there, but you haven't continued working on it. You haven't written more content. You haven't signaled to Google that you're constantly talking about this specialism. So it's plateaued again. So the next kind of step would be, well, what more could we do? Let's do some more content. Let's do another lead gen campaign. What more can we do to make sure that we don't plateau? Because yes, they are ranking well and they're ranking so much better, but you don't want to stagnate. You want to continue that. And then you want to take those learnings and spread it across all the other specialisms that you work in. But that again came from understanding the data that, okay, things were dropping. We need to jump on, update, add new things, change your tech SEO, and understanding and putting all of those pieces together, from a lead gen campaign, a download campaign with emails and marketing, to those landing pages for SEO, to those guides that help for, short tail and long tail keywords, all the way to tech SEO. Those things work together to bring that strategy together. And I think that's the biggest thing that we want to make sure that you guys take away from today, is that when you see that dip like this client did, the first thing you think is, oh my God, what have I done? What's wrong with my website? What's wrong with my campaign? But a lot of times it might just be that you just need to update, just need to change things. You just need to have a look at your data, not freak out, just understand it.